First, you must realize that you have no idea before you can know the idea. We scan across all the frequencies if we want to learn anything new. Let us begin.
What has physics done for me lately? Second more, the equation E is equal mc squared. We have now acquired a fateful power to alter and to destroy nature. That's like when you're in physics and you go to Dreamworld saying, oh, this is a physics excursion. Science, what is it all about? The whole of human history all falls in the dust of one stroke of a nail file. You can't really get to grips with evolution unless you realise what an enormous amount of time our own planet is only a tiny part of the vast cosmic tapestry, a starry fabric of worlds yet untold. You are tuned into what can only be described as the best radio station on this blue dot we call Earth. It is, of course, 4ZZZ, connecting and amplifying voices of our community.
Is it no idea?
Yes, it is. No
Question mark? No idea?
No idea whether this is no idea. What was that?
Well, that was a Falcon 9 sonic boom coming back when that lands. Yeah, so because I just did I did it I just replaced our current
You
intro.
replaced our rocket.
You did the rocket too.
Be it on your conventional wireless radio by tuning into the classic frequency of 102.1 FM, digital devices such as DAB or smart speaker, listening via the Community Radio Plus app, or streaming us live from our sensational website at 4ZZZ.org.au. And of course, you can always listen back to us or any 4ZZZ show for that matter using the on-demand feature, also found at that URL. We also now have a weekly podcast of the show for your listening pleasure, created by Toby, a condensed version of the show without the music, which my mum prefers. Just search for our show name. Yes, it is no idea. Spelt with a K, your weekly dose of science. And joining me today are two gold standard science communicators. Please introduce
Stick with the gold standard.
Peter and Gabriel.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And here's a sticker for you. Good morning, Max. Coming up on the show, I've got something on, is cheese actually making you have nightmares?
Oh, I've read about this before. I thought it was giving us dreams.
Dreams and nightmares. People say both. We'll get into it. What do you got, Peter?
I've got, we're going to flip some sharks.
Oh,
Cool.
Okay.
Flip them over.
More
Max?
ocean stuff. Yeah, gold. I'm talking gold.
What's that
more
tone?
gold stuff.
Gold.
Where
Gold
the hell did that
standard.
tone come from?
Gold standard science. That's right.
This ends my lowball question, Stockwell. I have a hard-hitting one now. Ian, would you like to do the honour?
Oh, we just had a text in from somebody called Max. They said, what is Stephen's favourite show at 4ZZZ?
My favourite show? God.
This is the low ball. You can hit this like a pinata. Like this.
No way, he could
hard.
break hearts with this.
This is hard. You know, there are so many shows. I mean, I think,
He's taken the diplomat
no
route.
idea.
But
No idea. I really could not pick a favourite show.
Wait,
I
so
have no
you-
idea what my favourite show would be.
I like it. I like it.
Now, we're discussing this before. You love all the alarms of the cars going off as well.
Yes, Max.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's a Falcon 9 coming back and putting a sonic boom in. And what did you guys think it was?
I thought it sounded like Elon Musk farting on our intro.
Oh, you went there. You thought it was a motorcycle
I thought it
backfire.
was a motorcycle. I was like, oh, it's kind of gross. It's
Okay.
the old one is magic. It's like majestic. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, the stars.
For those just tuning in, the show is No Idea, your weekly dose of science on 4ZZZ Community Radio with me, Max, Gabe, Peter. Ready? I noticed you got a microphone stand, Gabe. What's going on?
Stepping up in the world, Max.
You are.
Big strides. Thank you as well for reminding everyone it is community radio, because clearly they wouldn't have caught that from you playing the song underneath the sting, coming back in and playing a Falcon 9 rocket fighting all over the intro.
Smooth
And
operator.
then being surprised at me having a mic stand.
Wow. You're not just holding it? That's crazy.
behind the curtain.
Nothing screams community radio like surprise in basic tech gear to make radio work.
What do you got for us, Peter?
What should you do when you meet a bear?
Meet a bear. Whoa, bear. Well, that's what you do, right? Whoa, bear. Where did that come from? You don't. That's what they do. That's what you say that because they often get spooked up by the sound of humans. You should move slowly backwards while facing the bear. Usually is what people say, unless it's a polar bear, in which case
Wish you hadn't.
It's game over.
Yeah.
Wish you had not met the polar bear.
Pretty quick.
I got told to play dead, which is interesting. I don't know if that's true. Maybe do it, maybe don't. But it's interesting because a lot of animals do some form of playing dead. Possums do it, some rabbits do it, lizards do it, snakes do it, some insects do it, and of course those famous fainting goats, and then they just like fall over. And the official term is tonic immobility. Tonic immobility is like this reflex, it's involuntary, and it usually occurs when an individual perceives overwhelming danger and they just have profound motor inhibition, meaning you cannot move and usually go into some sort of like trance.
Right.
You just kind of stop. Your body stops. And I first came across this term, I didn't know the regular like playing dead was also called this. I know tonic immobility because of sharks. This is a thing that sharks do. And it's kind of because their tonic immobility is a little stranger. Well, other animals freeze when they see danger. In sharks, it happens when you flip them.
Ah.
Yeah.
Upside down shark.
Yeah.
So if you flip them onto their backs, they just go limp.
They're helpless.
They stop moving, their muscles relax, they enter this like hypnotized state, which is real weird. And you can even see sometimes they'll like accidentally put themselves into it. There's this famous video that went around TikTok a little while ago of this great white shark, and it's like following, I think, some prey. Someone was on a fishing boat, they were pulling their prey and the shark was following it. And the shark tried to like, I would say almost like when crocs do a barrel roll, it looks like it tried to attempt that. And then halfway through, when it was upside down, it just went limp. And then they just, in the video, the shark just like floats by upside down. And they're like, what the hell just happened? And it's because it accidentally put itself in tonic immobility. And it was only when it happened to get pushed by the wake back over that it restarted up again. It's really weird to look at. It's just like someone puts an off switch in their body. And this isn't news. We've known about this for a super long time. In fact, researchers actually use tonic immobility to help us research sharks because you can flip it and then suddenly they're a lot less dangerous. But the truth is that we don't know why they do it. Right now, there are 3 hypotheses. Can you guys give any guesses of what you think might be the reason?
Why a shark turns off when it's upside down.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. I actually don't have really any idea of what it could be. I could think maybe some sort of breeding response.
It's a bit like
if they
those
have
pilot-
to be if they have to be belly to belly, then the one underneath potentially goes limp as a breeding response.
That's one of them. That
That's
is the
good.
second hypothesis
I like
as a
that.
because they
reproductive
put
role.
their claspers together. So they
Some
would
male
be,
sharks do actually invert the females during mating, so they thought maybe it helps reduce struggles.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Okay, well, we've done breeding, so potentially a feeding thing. I don't know why they'd want to switch off when upside down if they're doing rolls to break off flesh, though. So that seems like a weird thing to do.
Yes, not that. The other 2 are anti-predator strategy, the classic playing dead, to avoid being eaten. And then the third one is a sensory overload response. They think that maybe they just shut down when it's extreme. So those are the 3 major hypotheses in the moment.
Okay.
But are any of them right? That's what some researchers from James Cook University QS ranking, please, 2026. Caught you off guard.
Hook.
Up at Mackay.
Yeah.
280.
Yeah, they're pretty high.
Townsville, actually.
Is it? Yeah. 300.
440.
Okay.
So JCU have been trying to figure this out, and what they did is they got 13 species of cartilaginous fishes, so sharks, rays, and chimeras, and they tested them. And each of their specimens were gently flipped to assess the induction of tonic immobility, and then they sort of recorded how long it was, like how they got out of it, all of those little things, like lots of different bits to research. And then they also mapped whether it occurred and how it occurred onto a phylogenetic tree. So back in like in their evolution to see maybe where did this start, where did this end, those sort of things. And then they also did some statistical analyses basically on like its occurrence and different ecological variables. Like are they higher predators or medium predators? Do they live in reefs? Do they live over here? All of those different things to try and ascertain whether it has a certain benefit in certain areas. So, of the 13 species tested, only 7 exhibited tonic immobility when flipped.
Okay.
So 6 of them did not. But it's still more than half, so it's pretty big. And they also found out that from their like tree mapping, that it's a plesiomorphic trait, basically meaning that it goes back a really, really long way. It's present in ancestral species, but it appears to have been independently lost multiple times throughout their evolutionary history.
Lost.
That's a key point. They found that there was no significant correlations between the presence of tonic mobility and major ecological factors such as habitat type or predation risk or anything like that. So, kind of interesting. The results of this study don't support any of the hypotheses. It can't be predation because some predators, mainly orcas, have actually learnt to flip sharks on purpose because they know they'll freeze and then they can just tear out their livers. It's not a sex thing either because there's no difference between sexes, and remaining immobile actually makes females very vulnerable during breeding.
But males do it too, they're saying. Okay.
Well, males do it to the females.
But they're saying that...
Yeah, males also do it, so why would that be a breeding thing? It doesn't really make any sense. And they actually said that there's no evidence or really even any testing for the sensory overload. It was just sort of an idea that someone threw out there.
There you go.
Instead, these researchers propose a new explanation. Do you want to have a guess at what it is?
Blood rush.
It's useless.
Oh.
They think it's just leftover waiting to be evolved out of. They actually think it puts them in pretty considerable danger and say that it's a really good reminder about evolution in that it's not perfection. It's not about being the best thing. Sometimes things just get left over and they're not good, but you're not really dying of them that quickly. So you just kind of have to wait for it to evolve out.
Tonic immobility, the tailbone of sharks.
Yes, that's it. That's exactly it.
Cool. Unfortunately, Peter and Gabe, I must start with my weird science with some less than palatable facts.
Oh.
Namely, two things. Electronic waste, or e-waste, is one of the fastest growing solid waste streams. In 2022, an estimated 62 million tonnes of e-waste was produced globally. Only around 22% was documented as being formally collected and recycled.
Ugh.
And when it comes to global gold mining, there are about 10 million to 20 million miners in more than 70 countries working in artisanal or small-scale gold mining. These generally unregulated operations generate 37% of global mercury pollution, which is more than any other industrial sector. Peter, you got some words to say about the mercury and the fish, I guess.
Some fish collect mercury because it bioaccumulates. Is that what you want?
Yeah,
So sometimes when you eat predators, they've eaten a lot of other fish that have
That's
small
right.
amounts of mercury and they have higher amounts of mercury.
And
That's my sentence on mercury.
Fortunately, there are scientists working on an elegant solution, an interdisciplinary, I can't even say that word, team of experts.
Interdisciplinary?
Yeah, thank you.
There you go.
Team of experts in green...
Always here for you, Max.
I could do it off air. In green chemistry, engineering and physics at Adelaide's Flinders University. What do we got?
Oh,
Flinders.
Flinders.
this is not Adelaide University, which is the one we talked about last week.
I was just saying
So-
where Flinders is.
320.
Yeah, good.
485.
Yeah, pretty good. 387.
Damn it.
Has developed a safer and more sustainable approach to extract and recover gold in both mining and e-wastes. Published in the journal Nature Sustainability,
Ooh, big one.
their new gold extraction technique promises to reduce levels of toxic waste in the gold mining sector, along with high purity gold that can be recovered from recycling electronic waste. The project team was led by Professor Justin Chalker. He has a website called chalkerlab.com if you want to check it out. The new
I love
process...
scientists with a website.
Yeah, that's why I thought I should mention it. The new process uses a low-cost and benign compound to extract the gold. The reagent that was used, and word of the day, by the way, if I can do it, trichloroisocyanuric acid.
Cool.
I'm not doing it again. It is widely used...
So listen up, that's the one. You get it once, memorize it.
It is widely used in water sanitation and disinfection. When activated by salt water, the reagent can dissolve gold. The dissolved gold is then hoovered up by selectively binding to their bespoke sulfur-rich polymer. The selectivity of the polymer allows gold recovery even in highly complex mixtures. The gold can be then recovered by triggering the polymer to unmake itself, releasing the gold and reverting back to its original state. As such, the polymer is able to be recycled and reused. Ultimately, the aim of the Flinders Lead project is to provide alternate methods for gold mining extraction and e-waste gold recovery. As such, the team collaborated with experts from the US and Peru to validate the method on ore in an effort to support small-scale mines that otherwise rely on toxic chemistry. Moreover, the team extensively tested the new technique on piles of electronic waste, demonstrating a more sustainable, circular economy, seamlessly retrieving gold and other precious metals for reuse rather than landfill. Good news story? Maybe.
Yeah.
Great news story, sounds to me.
Exactly.
I
Nothing.
just feel like we're moving more and more towards some of these landfill sites that are full of electronic waste becoming their own mine site.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah.
Like in Wall-E.
In the future.
Like in Wall-E.
What do the next 50 years of 4ZZZ sound like? We have no idea.
Yeah.
You tune into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea with me, Max, Issy.
A 30-second entrance.
Seamless.
Don't know if you could hear me huffing and puffing when I walk.
We're so community radio this week. Today we are very community.
Yes.
We got Peta. What do you got for us, Gabe?
Cheesy dreams and nightmares, Max. That's what I've got for you.
I'm so excited for this.
It was really funny in some of the statements about this research that the scientists involved were saying, we get so many questions from journalists about does food affect dreams and nightmares, and we have very few answers for that, and we finally do. So I think one of the biggest drivers of this research was the personal annoyance of researchers at getting questions from journalists.
Hey, journalists, listen to that. You can make scientists do stuff. Just call us enough and things will get done.
So what they've done is investigated the impacts of certain foods intake on and dietary habits on the quality of sleep and particularly on nightmares. So 1,000 students, or just over 1,000 students at McEwan University. They've asked about sleep time and quality. McEwan University, QS ranking?
Whereabouts is that?
I believe it's a US university.
Okay. Well, I'm going, it's in a range, so it's 500 to 600.
Oh, I'm going 350.
I'm going to go 585.
Doesn't have a QS ranking. Undergraduate focused university.
It's too good.
Yes, fair enough.
Yeah, and so they asked them about all sorts of questions. So this is a survey-based study, not an experimental one. They weren't strapping people into sleep machines and monitoring everything. They were just asking people about different bits and bobs, and it included a lot of questions about like quality of sleep, nightmares, and something particularly called the Nightmare Disorder Index.
Nightmare Disorder Index.
Series
That's
of
fun.
questions which are used to rank how bad your nightmares are, effectively.
When you woke up, did you still hate your partner?
Pardon? Pardon, Peter?
Where are we heading with this?
Oh, you still... No, because that's what people say online. They're like, oh, my partner cheated on me in my dream, so now they're in the doghouse. You know what I mean?
okay.
Have you seen those?
I get it now.
Yeah. You guys haven't seen those videos? It's like
No,
people
that was-
punishing their partners.
So that isn't on the Nightmare Disorder Index, but
Should be.
what they do have is frequency per week of nightmares, level of distress, impairment of daily activities, and duration across months.
I think it's in level of distress. I think I'm
Sure.
some of that.
So they're looking at how disturbing, extended, and well-remembered your dreams are, particularly the nightmare parts. So when they asked those people, and then they just got a whole bunch of information out of it, because they were also asking them about dietary preferences, allergies, intolerances, all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
What they found was if you have bad nightmares, you are more likely to have a food allergy and lactose intolerance.
Oh, what?
It's
There you
always
go.
the lactose.
Gets you every time.
Yep.
So upsetting.
And the lactose intolerance was mediated by how severe your gastrointestinal symptoms are.
Ooh.
And then healthy eating, such as less eating predicting higher dream recall, unhealthy eating, including gastric symptoms, lower reliance on hunger, and
Satiation.
Thank you. Cues. And evening eating predicted nightmares and dream negativity. But the key one there is the lactose intolerance, because it effectively means people who have that lactose intolerance also have gastrointestinal symptoms, right? The standard lactose intolerant symptoms, more severe, which then seems to impact sleep quality. And it's possible that then if you eat that dairy as a lactose intolerant during the day, like cheese, it activates the gastrointestinal disturbance, and then that discomfort
your brain's
affects
like,
your rest, which then affects people's dreams. Because we do know, if you're not in a certain depth of sleep, you tend to have better memory, dream recall and nightmare recall.
Yeah, like if you're in REM sleep, aren't you meant to be able to remember your dreams more?
Yeah, which is one of the reasons why if you sort of wake up on a Saturday morning at 7 and you go, I can sleep in, you go back to sleep, wake up at 9:30. That period is often where you remember a lot of your dreams, because you don't actually get back down into that deep of a sleep. So if you're having other impacts on your sleep quality, like gastrointestinal disturbance from eating cheese as a lactose intolerant, that could be impacting your sleep and therefore impacting your dream and nightmare recall. So yeah,
that explains why I heard the thing about cheese makes you dream.
Yes.
And I'd done that before because I wanted to remember my dreams and I love cheese, so I saw no downsides. And I was like, I'm just gonna have cheese before bed, and nothing happened. And it turns out it's because I'm not lactose intolerant.
It would seem.
My body was like, damn, cheese, awesome.
They also, as a side note, found that people who ate less healthily were more likely to have negative dreams and less likely to remember dreams. That was the second part of the results.
That seems like a very big finding for the second part of the results.
And again, it's it's a survey, so they're not doing experimental stuff. It's based a lot on recall and what people say.
Self-reporting.
Yeah, self-reporting data. But does potentially mean that things like food intolerances, food allergies, and poor eating habits could have impacts on our sleep quality, and as a result impact the dreams and nightmares we experience, but also just impact our sleep and overall health.
Eat your spinach, have nice dreams.
That's it. And avoid cheese if you're a lactose intolerant, like yours truly. They do say they need to study more people of different ages. This was, the classic, student study.
Young.
Young
young psych students.
I'm not speaking from experience, but it is a very common coping habit to shovel shredded cheese in your mouth in the middle of the night to cope with uni exams. So
I think
there is
definitely not speaking from experience there.
No, 100% not. But yes, very interesting study. As someone with celiac, I'd love to see any sort of relationship as well, because they always talk about gut-mind connection and things like that, and seeing how that manifests as well.
A friend of mine had a gluten intolerance where when she had gluten, she became extremely irritable and mean.
Yeah, I've heard. I also do the same apparently. But weirdly enough, I started remembering my dreams more when I cut gluten out as a celiac. So I don't know.
You should talk to Flinders.
I should have a chat with Flinders. I'll send them an email.
It's not Flinders.
Oh, it's not Flinders.
This is Flinders.
This is McEwen.
I'll have a chat.
This is not gold
Talk
extraction.
to Flinders anyway. Why not?
Yeah, I have a great idea.
Yeah, that's right.
They also say that experimental studies are needed because this was observational, so they could like to run a study where they ask people to ingest cheese products versus some sort of control food that is not cheese before they sleep, and see if it alters their
lactose intolerant
sleep
people,
or dreams.
please have cheese.
And I know
they could do the same for gluten.
I know so many lactose intolerant people who would 100% sign up to eat dairy
Guys,
willingly.
I have to.
Get paid by scientists to eat dairy in a lab. That's what I got for you, Max.
Cool. We had a text in from Al. They said, spot on, Groovers, I'm intolerant to amines or amines and salicylates, enzymes in foods, and I have really wild dreams if I have them, not lactose though. Cheers.
Oh, interesting.
Just look this up. I'm not intolerant to anything, but if I was, I would probably eat it so that I could have cool dreams.
Just intolerant to acronyms, aren't you, Peter?
Oh, yeah. You're right.
Let's get back into the
Someone
playlist.
just say acronyms to me before I sleep.
First sonar, do you remember what it stood for from the top of the show, Max and Issy and Peter?
Sound.
Sorry.
Navigation and...
Ranging.
There you go. Sound, navigation and ranging.
Can we do scuba as well?
Self-contained underwater breathing apparatus.
Yeah.
What? Really?
Yeah.
That's what it means.
Oh, I'm going to smash pub trivia now that I know that. Oh my God.
You tuned into 4ZZZ, and the show is very loose today. It's no idea. It's a science show.
Aren't we always,
with
though?
me, Max, Izzy, Peter. You got something for us, Gabe?
Oh, incredible text in from Giri. about that story on the dreams and the cheese and the
Cheesy
nightmares.
dreams.
Yeah.
Saying I had a very vivid dream that my husband was cheating on me and all his workmates were laughing at me because they all knew. I woke up and confronted him with it. Of course, I was being paranoid, according to him. Fast forward 6 months later, I discovered he'd been having an affair for 2 years with someone he worked with.
Whoa.
That's called intuition, baby.
That is called intuition. That's not a dream.
Listen to it. That's the takeaway from this show. If you have a dream that your partner's cheating on you, look into it.
0420626733. I want to hear more dream stories. I want to hear as well a different experiences with different foods, because this study really only looked at a couple of things, observational, bits and bobs about things like lactose intolerance. So I'm keen to hear your experience with different foods and how it affects your dreams and nightmares.
Are we going to hear from our friendly neighbourhood marine scientist?
You sure as hell are. So, move over cheese. We're going back to the ocean.
Yeah.
If you've listened to my segment over the past couple of years, you should know a couple of things. What are some of your takeaways, team?
Fish are friends, not food.
PFAS
And food.
PFAS is everywhere. Everywhere.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's a good takeaway from
And
my segment. Depressing.
microplastics.
And microplastics.
Wow. Anyone got a nice takeaway from my segment?
Sharks
yeah.
play dead when you roll them over.
That was this morning.
Yeah.
Come on.
And you can catch crabs with LEDs in the pots. That was good.
You can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Or
Okay.
shrimp.
Oh, what was it? Salmon
Shrimp.
AI? Was it salmon? Where they shot
Salmon
them through
AI?
a tube?
Yeah,
and
the salmon
counted
can.
them all?
Yeah.
The salmon cannon. Yeah.
Cannon.
Salmon
We love the
cannon.
salmon
That one.
cannon.
Yeah.
Okay, well, one should probably be, I was thinking generic takeaways, but I love that you guys have memorized my stories. One should be that orcas are super intelligent and that there's lots of intelligent life under the sea. Just last week, we talked about how some orcas in the Eastern Pacific are exfoliating with bits of kelp, which I think is sick. They do it together. One grabs a bit of kelp and then they basically squish it between their bodies and then swim back and forth, and it creates this it's a little exfoliation thing they get to do together. They're calling it aloe kelping. And last year we had a story about the exact same group of orcas wearing salmon as hats in some sort of fad, which had come back from the 1980s, a revival of a fad of salmon hats, which is very exciting, which they have no idea why, but it was cool. And today we turn to some different orcas who, and this is where it gets really exciting, they might be trying to be our friends.
Oh.
Okay. So what are some behaviours that you guys think could lead to this conclusion?
Well, they used to help with the Aboriginals, didn't they, with their fishing down in New South Wales. And what they would get was all the offcuts. The orcas would lead them and
I
circle
thought
up
that was
the fish.
dolphins, but yes, that does happen. I mean,
Yeah.
orcas are dolphins, I guess.
Could have been orcas.
But yeah, could have been.
Yeah.
How would
Not
we know
familiar.
that orcas are being our friends? I mean, they've never attacked a human in the wild.
They have
on
never
record.
attacked a human in the wild, that is true.
Attacked plenty of humans in captivity.
Because
They've attacked lots of boats.
I was going to say, yes, I wanted to clarify. Was it the orcas that were attacking boats?
It
Or-
was.
Yes,
that was
okay.
in the Mediterranean.
that was in the
a
There was also
single-
that borer type thing, boring a hole through the boats. What was that one?
Yeah.
Do you remember that one? Like a
Yes.
boring fish? Anyway.
I do remember that.
Yeah,
was a-
anyway. Maybe they want to get on the
memory,
boat. Maybe they just can't get up high enough.
Maybe they're just like, I want to join you guys. But I'm just flopping onto a boat.
No idea what I'm doing. Okay, so moving away from boats and things that aren't friendly, what they were actually doing is offering food.
Oh.
Orcas were offering humans food. In fact, a global team of scientists have documented 34 interactions from all over the world, including the US, Norway, New Zealand, and Patagonia, of orcas offering food. Now, they were really strict about which things could be counted as this, so the orcas had to voluntarily approach the humans with the food items and basically just come up to you. It couldn't have been started by someone else. It couldn't have been. The interaction must have been initiated by the orcas.
Do they cook it on the way, or?
No. So the
Yum.
offerings.
Sashimi, Max.
Oh, sashimi in some circumstances, others in others. So 11 instances were when people were in the water with them. So they were swimming up to the people in the water. 21 were with the people on boats. They were swimming up to the boats knowing there were people there. And 2 took place on the shore, which is crazy. And they offered, this is when it gets a little oh, thank you. They offered a pretty wide variety of food, including a bunch of fish. So there you go, sashimi. Some jellyfish.
Oh.
A little penguin.
Oh.
Okay.
There's just a picture of it floating dead in the
Yeah.
water.
Goodness.
Yep, an otter,
Right.
a bottlenose dolphin, a
What the-
sunfish,
Really?
a sunfish, a whole mola mola, a seal, a sea lion, and some kelp.
Oh. And the kelp.
Wow.
Yes, right.
Kelp. Just in case you're vegetarian, you know.
Or a bit of variety.
And then the two most disturbing sentences that I found was that researchers apparently couldn't identify all the offerings.
Yeah.
Some were just
Okay.
bodiless meat.
Yep.
And they said the offerings were typically dead, but one offered a, quote, disabled shark and a stunned stingray.
Really?
So a little awkward when you're the human in the water being like, oh no, I couldn't possibly. Sorry. So in each case, the orcas initiated the interaction unprompted. The humans did not closely approach them, and the orcas would deliberately release the item in front of them. Just pop it right in front of you. Most of the interactions included the orcas lingering nearby to observe the human reaction, like 90%. They would just sit there and like wait and look at the person looking at the food, being like, they drop it in front of them and then they go.
I'm picturing a Labrador here.
Yeah, it's very similar. It's
Just
very, very
bringing
similar.
back something, like your shoe or something, after they've gone to town on it.
Well, I'm thinking
and just bring it back to
more cat-like, where they open the drawers and something falls out, and you're just like, oh, cool, thanks.
See, very similar, except in those cases, like in dogs and cats, and they do mention this in the study, those sort of things aren't always meant to be food, right? Like for cats especially, it can be like spoils, like they're trying to show you how good they are.
Yes.
Sometimes it's food, sometimes it's not. It's different sort of things. In domesticated animals, there's obviously different ideas here. In the wild, this is them offering food. And so they did say that in 7 cases, the whales made... They're not whales. They just keep calling them whales. The orcas made multiple attempts to offer the same or new items after initial refusal, which is crazy. So they offered food. The humans didn't take it, and they were like, hey, whoa, no, take this food. take it. Take it.
Please.
Oh, you don't like
or
this
take
food?
out
Let me
your
give you
boat.
something else. They're like, oh, they don't like dead little penguins? Have an otter. You know what I mean? Like that sort of stuff. In 50% of cases, the prey was, quote, initially offered whole, which I like the idea that maybe they were like, oh, they can't eat it whole. I've got to chop this up.
You've got to cut it up for them, darling.
Yeah, they're not that good. In 33 of 34 cases, this is the majority, the orcas waited for a response.
Okay.
33 out of 34. That is huge. Before either recovering, which the vast majority did, or abandoning the item. So most of them recovered it. 21% of the time, the retrieved items were then re-offered to humans. And in 2 cases, it happened 3 or more times. They just kept trying to give them food. In most cases, the people ignored the items, but in the cases where they retrieve them, so the human goes, okay, thank you, and they grab it, the orcas, and then like give it back to them. So like one of them, I think was the penguin, they picked it up, they like researched it, they took some notes, and then they put it back in the water. The orcas almost always tried to offer it back. So if it looked like they were interested, they would just try and give it and try and give it and try and give it. Oh God. Which is crazy. So some of these events were documented in photos or videos, others were described through interviews with the researchers. But this is just like completely not seen before. I mean, obviously the individual people had seen it, but it hasn't been sort of described before. Food sharing is a known behavior amongst orcas, and it's usually used to build and reinforce social bonds within pods. And they say that because we know orcas are the top predator, right? There's no predator more predator than an orca in the ocean besides us. And we sort of forced our way in. Orcas, when you're that sort of level of top predator, and due to their body size and things like that, they often have food left over. And so when you have food left over, social sharing becomes a really important thing.
Social sharing or fattening up tomorrow's dinner.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is between orcas. We're still talking between orcas, and there's okay. To my knowledge, no cannibalism. Jesus Christ. And then they said that we know that some domesticated animals, like dogs and cats, as we discussed, offer food to humans sometimes. That's a thing that we know they do. But this study provides some of the first detailed documentation of similar behavior in a wild species. Because I think you guys would have seen before, there was a video that went around, I think 3 or 4 years ago, of a leopard seal who was doing it with a photographer for National Geographic.
Yes.
And it kept trying to give him a penguin. And it was like, have this penguin, have this penguin, have this penguin. And she was like visibly distressed that the researcher wasn't eating the penguin.
Yeah.
That's a clear example of the same thing, but it wasn't described in detail, and it wasn't like around the world. So this is the first time we've seen it sort of in a species around the world,
And in
multiple
different
locations.
scenarios, beach, boat,
Yeah,
People
different
in the
scenarios.
water,
They just
'cause-
seem to be
yeah.
interested.
Yep.
And so the researchers want to emphasize again that orcas possess advanced cognitive skills, as we started this story with. They are incredibly smart and they have complex social structures. So traits that make this sort of cross-species pro-social behavior plausible. Basically, they're curious. They have a capacity for curiosity. And they think that their occasional food surpluses may create more opportunities for such interactions. But they end the study by saying they think this is them reaching out to us. And either maybe they care about these people, like individually, they wanted to feed them, or maybe they were just curious about reactions in the same way that when we're diving, I would crack open a shell for a fish, you know, just to see what happens, just to be interested. And I think that's kind of maybe what's happening here.
Interesting.
Cool.
So good.
Okay. And Geary wrote in and said, it's a bit like when you give teachers gifts at the end of the year. Could we say that or not?
I don't know if we're the teachers in this.
I don't know. Do you have access to penguins and seals and whatever?
Yeah, I can't remember when I last gave my teacher a dead penguin, but maybe I should have tried.
It's like the weirdest dating sim where you just keep buying them gifts and just hoping whatever works.
I killed an otter for you.
Yeah, please take it.
Okay, it's time for the best part of the show. Loosely defined as science, yeah, you already know. Everybody listens to 4ZZZ just to hear us talking about what Butters just did. Subscriptions just keep rolling like the tires on a car. But something tells me that our science curves won't go far. But unlike an engine, I won't keep you in suspension. We're all here to hear him talk, so let's give him attention. You're not ready for when he starts rapping. Gonna hand the mic to Max, and I'm not talking Van Stappen.
Last week, you might have heard this. It's the Austrian GP this weekend. It will be a traditional race weekend format, which means, well, this is what I'm thinking anyway, we'll see Lando Norris in his McLaren top the spreadsheets in FP2 and FP3, then qualify down the order. Then he'll do some interesting overtakes, but ultimately will crash out. Well, clearly I crashed out because my prediction was clearly wrong.
Your predictions in the past, Max, how accurate have those been?
Not so good. No.
So that's right, everyone. Take this.
Maybe I shouldn't play this
bucket
now.
of salt.
So it was in Austria, as we said, and it was a McLaren masterclass at the Red Bull circuit. Take that, Red Bull. Sadly, no Aussie anthem this week, spoiler alert. It was Lando's Norris race to lose, and he did not lose it at all. But he was pushed pretty hard.
Yeah, how did Christian Horner put it again?
Well, we're not going to go there, I don't think so.
not appropriate to broadcast. But,
Is he
it
once-
was insane, wasn't it? Like how close the racing was.
Yes.
Yeah.
So very interesting, very I wanted to talk a little bit. We were talking about Red Bull circuit, talking about Max and Kimi. First lap, not even. Kimi locked up and crashed into world champion of last year, Max Verstappen. And in that moment, I would think, that's it. I'm writing my resignation letter. And you can fully see it in, I found a time-lapse version of Kimi getting out of the car, instantly Max Verstappen steering wheel off, helmet off, in his fireproofs. Kimi's sitting in the car.
Yeah.
And he is probably panicking
Head
because if you've been living under a rock, Max and George Russell do not get along at all. And Kimi was probably thinking, I'm hoping he doesn't think I'm the other Mercedes driver. But as soon as he jumps out, Max is patting him on the back and having a chat with him.
Yeah.
So that was a really fun moment. And I think it's a testament to Max's driving as well, or how he, as a driver,
Has
matured, always takes rookies under his wing and was willing to have a technical chat with Kimi, but you could just feel the dread when he locked up and took out the world champion.
Well, because it's their home race as well for
Yes.
Red Bull. I don't know.
So
It's nice to see a more mature Max Verstappen, hey?
Oh, definitely. A much calmer as well. But everyone's saying if it was George Russell, it would be turned into UFC
Fireworks.
fighting on the grid.
But to be fair, though, George Russell wouldn't do it now
No,
as
he would
well.
not do it.
So he's matured as a
he
driver
has
as well.
matured as well.
Yeah.
But it was just a very unfortunate situation for the rookie Kimi Antonelli.
And it was good to see that Ferrari, they brought some new upgrades to the track and they actually worked. So they must be correlating with whatever they got back at headquarters.
Yeah, and a great weekend specifically, I think, for Hamilton. And apparently his side of the garage have started moving more and more towards Leclerc's setup.
Yes.
So good to see some improvement there.
And so he has to change his driving style to be more akin to Leclerc, I would suspect.
Yeah, because apparently it scrubs the rears a lot. Like it's got a bit of slide in it. The current Ferrari, and Leclerc's had a few years to get used to it, but obviously Hamilton's still quite green in the red garage.
So well done, Lando Norris. He set the best times in FP2, FP3, quali, the race. He won the race. I don't think he actually set the fastest lap time. I think they went to Oscar Piastri. Can we play the anthem on that one?
I don't think so.
I think audio was a big discussion this weekend as well, especially for Oscar Piastri, who was willing to drop some F-bombs over the radio.
Yes.
Including a very notable line about how Alpine has come to curse him, or he put it in a
so
very
many
different
years
way.
later.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you were hearing any radio from Oscar, it is his weekend for it.
Gabe, any
He's
thoughts?
usually really, let's say, calm under the lid, but
Yes,
I think...
but the Aussie accent jumped out a few times, I will say.
Go for it.
Yeah, good to see him getting a bit more passionate. And also, special shout-out to Irishman Alex Dunn for setting the 4th fastest lap.
Yes.
Deputising for Lando Norris in free practice 1. So he's the first Irishman since Ralph Furman raced for Jordan back in 2003 to take part in any F1 session. Unfortunately, though, put a little bit of shade on his weekend. He was disqualified then from the Formula 2 feature race. So he's currently now second.
He's done enough.
F2 championship.
Yes,
I
right.
think he has.
Gabe, what do you got?
Nothing much more, Max. It was an interesting race. It's always a weird one because it's such a short track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They still lap
it was
people,
good
though.
stuff. They still lap people.
Yeah, well,
They still
I
get
guess that's the
around.
nature of short track. Yeah, true.
Absolutely.
Yeah. MotoGP happened on the weekend. It was in Netherlands. It was won by Marc Marquez on his Ducati. His brother had a bit of an accident, so he wasn't second. Aussie Jack Miller finished 14th on his Yamaha.
We got a good text in from Pete as well saying, after listening for years and bagging out on the F1 being boring and the beloved MotoGP being heaps better and more exciting, now appears F1 is getting a bit better in the current MotoGP season. Is you're either Marc Marquez, his brother, or you're irrelevant.
I was talking to Paul yesterday at 4ZZZ, and he listens into the show, and he says apparently the Moto 2 and Moto 3 races are really fun to watch rather than just the MotoGP. Yeah, so we should have a look out for that.
Well, that just quickly, that they, when I was into MotoGP, was sort of the Casey Stoner and after Casey Stoner era, and then Rossi's having his sort of comeback moment as well.
Yeah,
and I remember there was a big moment in there where they were going through what F1's going through a bit at the moment with the getting annoyed at it being a bit too professional, a bit too cut and paste, who's going to win each week, not enough overtaking going on, and then and talking up how Rossi at that time was talking up a lot how Moto 2 and Moto 3 is what MotoGP should be, and how it's scrappy and lots of overtakes, and there's people can have their best lap of their life and they'll qualify really well from it and not just finish badly because they're on a bad bike and stuff. So I think it's they've got a similar thing in the MotoGP 1, 2, 3 that the formulas have in the 1, 2, 3, where the racing is often technically better in the second and third divisions because there's less money in it. They're using kit car the same
equal
cars
machinery.
all the time. And so it's not as flamboyant and we don't know as much about it, but it's thoroughly entertaining.
NASCAR Cup also was held. It was held in Atlanta Motor Speedway. It was an oval circuit. Former Supercars champion Shane Van Gisbergen was running pretty well up in the top 10 for a while until he slid out and went back to 24th and finished overall in 24th. But it is this weekend that I implore everyone to watch because it's at the streets of Chicago. He'll be joined by reigning Supercar champion Will Brown. So hopefully it'd be great 1-2, wouldn't it, for the Supercar champions on the streets of Chicago. And SVG is also racing in the lesser series, the Xfinity car. So he's doing double duty on the weekend, which is fun. Issy, F1 Academy.
Yeah, I was away last week, so I'm here to fill it in. But I'm doing a little bit of, obviously, Formula One, the movie has come out, and I'm sure we'll have a review cooking shortly. But overshadowed by that was Formula One, the Academy series on Netflix, the little docuseries, 7 episodes that I am now enjoying my uni holidays and was able to binge watch. Much like Drive to Survive, docuseries are a fantastic way to get to know each driver personally and understand kind of the narratives. And this series was not any different. Unfortunately, my one critique, it is very Netflixy. in editing. So it's got every girl power, every she can do whatever you want music playing in the background. But if you can look beyond that, 7 35-minute episodes narrated by the luscious Scottish tones of Susie Wolf. It is very bingeable. And it has so many F1 drivers making appearances as well, like Logan Sargent, Lando Norris, and also our beloved Sir Lewis Hamilton as well.
Yeah.
Good to see Logan Sargent getting some work.
Yes, he was tying in a lot with a lot of the American female drivers. He's in the background of a few different shots, and I think he actually speaks to camera as well. But in further news, we've also got Abby Pulling being officially signed to a multi-year contract with Nissan's Formula E team. She's already been a big part of the team after winning the first ever women's Formula E session in Madrid, Spain last year, which has led to her work in rookie tests and simulator work. Additionally, Bianca Bustamante has been signed as a development driver for Cupra Kiro, building on her previous experience in the same Formula E session that she placed third. Overall, it is an interesting trend seeing Formula E acting as a strong pipeline for the female drivers, and it's very exciting to see some of the best of Formula One Academy establish themselves outside now that they've graduated the academy. Speaking of, Formula One Academy partnered with David Coulthard's More Than Equal to produce a driver development guide, which is a great resource for individual drivers, and having a look through it, I have downloaded it. If you have ever been looking for a really comprehensive technical guide about racing from the driver's seat, this is a fantastic resource. Talks about driving lines, talks about how to prepare yourself mentally, physically, and technically for the day of driving. So it has been released, it's officially out on the F1 Academy website. It's also got little worksheets as well, so I think this is a fantastic resource and a great touchstone that's been released from the F1 Academy. But that's my roundup for the girls.
Cool. We should post those links
We should, yes.
on our website. And just to continue on F1,
A couple of paddock rumours.
no.
The ever-changing musical chairs that is the Formula One circuit.
As we reach the summer break, go on.
Yes, so apparently not all is well over at Alpine. They're a bit
goodness.
ho-hum on Colapinto. I mean, we didn't even talk about him trying to run Piastri off the road under blue
Well, we
flags.
sort of did. We're with the
touch
swearing
base
of...
on it, yes.
Yeah.
Alpine coming
We just
for
didn't want the
revenge.
Argentinian hate. But the rumour currently is that they are inquiring with Mercedes as to their third driver, Valtteri Bottas, as to whether he may take over that seat.
Which I want, because I can bring that back the Bottas report then.
Yes, the 77.
Yes, the 77 report.
In bigger late-breaking news, Sky Italy is reporting that Verstappen's move to Mercedes is effectively waiting board approval over at the Merc board. So pretty crazy if that move does actually eventuate.
Would the board decision be price sensitive, you think? Or
I think it would be, because I think that's why they chose to handle Lewis Hamilton the way that they did.
Yeah.
Which ultimately led him to go to Ferrari.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I think they have a lot of confidence in their 26 package. And do they need someone better than Russell? And I think that's what it's going to come down to. Still, be great to see.
And there's also the British GP this weekend.
On midnight.
Any predictions? Midnight, Sunday night?
At Silverstone.
Yeah. Fast track.
Very fast track.
McLaren's
very
good with
cold
their
track.
tyres. It's going to be a
Yeah.
McLaren lockout, isn't it?
It will.
Just sailing off into the distance.
Yes,
Believe-
totally.
So hopefully, we see another McLaren double podium potentially. But I want to know who's going to be the third. I want to know who's going to be the fourth as well, because Austria was a race with the midfield a little bit. So we'll see how we go.
Yeah, okay.
I'd love to see Hamilton up there.
Oh
The
yeah.
Ferrari. Wouldn't that be magic?
Well, that's what they're thinking, aren't they? Like, somehow he conjures up a way to get on the podium.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Nigel Mansell always said. The British drivers seem to have a lot of good luck at Silverstone.
In some unseen footage. Did you see those dolphins that greeted
Yes,
them
I
when they
did.
landed? Well, apparently some were seen leaving Earth and saying so long and thanks for all the fish.
Oh my god. I was wondering where you were going.
Oh my god.
We got a text in from Peter. Just wanted to mention Aussie Dave. He used to volunteer for joint efforts back in the 80s. He is the lead pit for Top Fuel Dragster, and his various teams hold many speed records. You're tuned to 4ZZZ. The show's No Idea with me, Max. We've got Issy, we've got Peter. What do you got for us, Gabe?
I've got for you, Max, a study that's sure to rocket UQ back up the QS rankings after a small slip
Hell yeah.
about a week
42,
ago. from-
yeah.
Yep, so some of our local engineers have figured out how to make remote-controlled beetles.
Brilliant.
Perfect. I've always wanted one of those.
Yeah.
QS ranking,
Like-
Max, was?
42.
Yep. down from 40 from last year, but that's all right. 42 is still pretty solid, and I'm sure this is back on the right track.
This 2026 record.
Yes, I was. Yes, of course.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
I tuned in last week.
And of course, it is up to date with the QS rankings.
Yeah, of course.
Why wouldn't they be?
I was sitting on my computer refreshing, waiting for those QS rankings to come through.
It's like waiting for your results.
Yes.
That's Izzy's screensaver on her phone.
Oh, of course, I've got the entire ranking. But robot beetles.
Yes.
Robot beetles. So there's the specifically dark
helmets?
beetles.
Helmets.
Which are,
Does it have
oh,
helmets?
it's even better. It's better. No,
Wait.
Max, it's better than helmets.
Wait. I'm thinking immediately those like 90s toys, those little beetles that would rattle around on your desk.
Like wind up ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Real life beetles.
Except not.
They're a species of darkling beetle, a long black beetle whose larvae are well known by the name giant mealworms or superworms. You've probably walked past them in the pet store for the lizard food.
Oh, I know the ones.
At least some. They're one of the species, or one of the types. Native to Central and Southern America, I believe they are. These darkling beetles are about 2.5 to 3 centimeters long, and they live for around 3 months, which is pretty long for a beetle. I'm going to tell you what they did to these beetles now.
Oh,
what
God.
the hell?
Is it going to be worse than tethering the moths?
Are you ready? Yeah, we had tethered moths.
Tethered moths.
What, last week?
Yes.
This week, they began. They only did this on a small number of beetles, I should say. But they anaesthetized them first by putting them on crushed
well, that's
ice.
good.
So numbed them on crushed ice. They were then, the beetles immobilized using clay under a microscope. Had 3
Using clay?
holes. Yeah, they use clay to
They
just hold them
Han
down.
Soloed them.
Yeah, they
Okay.
just secure them down with
Carbonise.
clay after
Carbonise
anaesthetizing
them.
them with crushed ice. We're not even at the fun part yet. They had 3 holes poked into their backs. One right at the top, and then 2 more into the elytron, which are those 2 hardened bits that we think of as their wings, but they're kind of like wing casings.
Yeah.
So 3 holes in their backs, right? Electrodes were then placed into those 3 holes and secured with melted beeswax. They had a small Arduino microcontroller circuit board that was then connected to those 3 electrodes and mounted to their backs with double-sided tape.
Elaborate.
Oh,
They super
Why didn't they
soldiered
just use
them.
beeswax to join
did
it
super
as
soldier
well?
them.
They super soldiered them.
They did super solder them. So they've got electrodes mounted in, which they can then, by communicating with the little Arduino thing,
Yes.
they can send little pulses to either.
so they can electrocute them a bit.
Yeah. Yep.
We call it
It connects
stimulation.
it connects directly into the insect's nervous system because it's drilled into them or poked into them. They used an insect pin capable of stimulating the insect's sense of touch and controlling its movement. So they gave them 10 hertz for 0.6 seconds at 3.3 volts. When they were doing this. And once again in the show, I feel compelled to remind everyone that there is no such thing as an ethics board for insect research or entomology. I feel like we're getting forced closer and closer to
Needing one. Yeah.
But in defense of these Queenslanders doing the study, I can report from the depth of this paper's methods section that they were housed in the luxurious accommodation of a Kmart modular storage drawer.
Oh, that's incredible.
That was lined with wheat bran bedding and had fresh slices of apple falling from the skies twice a week.
So there's basically 5
twice
stars.
a week.
Twice a
Doesn't
week.
seem that
This
often.
is luxe accommodation.
They only live for a few months and they're only eating twice a week.
That's all they need. Oh, the apples stay there for a while.
Yeah.
And then they also, to the credit of these researchers, they let them live out their full lives after the experiment. And a lot of researchers would have just chucked them in a vial with some ethyl acetate as soon as the experiment had ended. So kudos to the researchers for torturing these things, but at least letting them live out a semi-luxurious
The
life
super
in a
soldiers
Kmart box.
escaped into the wilderness to show the other beetles. They're like, look what was done to me.
Anyway, when this was all hooked up to, I think they were using a laptop for most of it, they could give them 3 commands, effectively. They could stimulate the top and the one on the left. So they'd run a current between the 2 electrodes, which would then make them move to the right because it stimulates
like a
something
boat.
on their left. So they move to the right, they turn right. Yeah, like a boat. And then they could stimulate the right and they'd move to the left, right? Sort of push them that way. Or they could do both and basically just spur them forwards.
Yeah, yes.
Right?
Like
So
a
they've
horse,
made
yeah.
something. Yeah. And I think it kind of just makes them feel like they've run into something or at least there's something on their left that's zapping them so they move to the right to get away from it.
Yeah.
And then what happens is they were trying to use these to navigate over certain obstacles. This is the specific thing they were trying to do with the beetles.
Not just torture beetles.
Is navigate them through certain obstacles and little obstacle courses. And so when they would run into a wall, they had a
They're
sort
trying
of...
to create a new sport.
Yeah, they when they ran into a wall, they'd get into this other control they could do where beetles, they kind of call the beetles out for trying to take the path of least resistance. I'm like, well, okay, of course, it's a living
So
beetle.
would I.
Yeah. But when it runs into a wall, they'll run parallel against the base. They just sort of run along. You know when you see a cockroach like running along the base of your walls? And so if it was running with the wall to its right, they could simulate the left and just force it up the wall to make it climb. So they had a sort of extra control where they could make them climb by turning them into the wall.
This is going to
as they
change
were
beetle
running
racing.
parallel along it. So they could make them go up and down walls, or at least up corners of walls if they weren't running up the face of it itself.
Yeah.
And then they also so they had a couple different obstacles they ran. The last stage was like a full-on obstacle course. It had about 6 little things ranging from a small bump
I'm
made out of
imagining the
styrofoam
Ninja
to
Warrior one.
Yeah. It was like a little Ninja Warrior course for a beetle, and then there were a couple of big vertical walls at the end for it to run
No
up.
one told Channel 9.
So they tested how often they could successfully navigate one of these little beetles over the wall, and then they also tested them again 5 days later. With this microchip backpack implanted in them still. And they found they had really high success rates. Depending on the different experiments, they had between like 60% to 90% success rates in navigating these beetles over these short obstacles, using just that stimulus of left, right, or both, and to push them
Straight
forwards.
ahead,
Yeah. And so theoretically, if a battery can be strung up to it that lasts long enough, and some more
Solar
fine scale
power.
controls can be added to these cyborg beetles. They could be controlled for multiple days at a time. And this is the part where I make you guess why they're doing this. Why would you make a beetle cyborg that you could pilot around for multiple days?
Okay, my only thought is rescue missions, like after earthquakes. But you'd need a camera or something
Yeah,
to
it's just
feed
to
the
strap a
information
camera
back.
to them. What about
Yeah.
cleaning drain pipes or finding where blockages are in sewage systems?
I'm going to propose just because.
Just for fun.
So I'm not going to rule out just because. I think that's a big motivator that often
Yeah.
gets left out of scientific studies,
Yep.
but is genuinely a big part of why. But it is the search and rescue. So people
Nice.
trapped in rubble, particularly that they're looking at. They have this idea of using beetles, lots of beetles,
Yeah.
with packs strapped to them, and controlling them to go through rubble and locate people.
It's like, you know that old fairy tale of the guy that controls the rats and he like goes into the city with
That's
like a little
fully what I was thinking
recorder?
this entire time.
And it's like someone comes in
The
and it's like a
Pied
disaster
Piper
zone. They're like,
of-
release the beetles, and there's just like a swarm of electronic beetles.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So they say there's limitations to what robots can do in this space, at least at the moment. Particularly that transition from horizontal surfaces to walls, vertical walls, remains a challenge for them. That's why they were focusing on that in this research, because beetles, insects have just millions upon millions of years of evolutionary
What about
history
geckos?
that makes them really good at clambering up walls, and you know, they're just really functional little things that if you
Yeah.
could control their movement, they would be really good little robots. It's weird, but it's true. Like we have evolution has created a perfect little robot. If we can control its movements, then we could use it for stuff like this.
And if we can get a camera on it, that can send
Right.
data back.
So
to
the beetles,
people.
they say, possess many natural gifts that make them masters of climbing and maneuvering in small, complex spaces like dense rubble that are often difficult for robots to navigate. You know, you also get the built-in fact that the beetle is still, for at least a lot of the time, running on its own and taking the path of least resistance. So it
Right, to
you only
save
need to
some energy.
theoretically steer it in certain spots where to get it over certain walls and obstacles.
Yeah.
Yes, but like you said, Peter, there's a lot still to come. So they had them tethered the whole time in this experiment. So there's a small wire running from the controller board on their back, the little backpack, to I think it was just plugged straight into a computer. And so that was how they were providing the stimulus. They did run one short experiment over some actual rocks, which I'm pretty sure the rocks are just one of the rocks out in UQ's St. Lucia campus, because it looked really familiar.
They just went down to UQ Lake and they were like, go run.
But they did have batteries on that one. So they confirmed that the idea still works if you have some, but you know, obviously it was very short term. They were
That's
only
how they
moving them
left
up
it
a
into
single
the
rock.
wild.
Yeah, so if they can get that power supply lasting long enough,
Yeah.
if they can control them a bit more, and if they can get the camera added,
Yeah.
then this potentially works. They're talking, though, live testing within 5 years, and they reckon maybe helping out in some sort of natural disaster scenario within 10 years. And even that seems a bit optimistic. It's a long way off. But they have produced a tool that can move potentially through chaotic environments to pinpoint a person's exact location, provide clues of injuries, give rescuers a picture of what needs to be done to free them.
They created the tool, meaning they strapped a beetle.
They backpacked up a beetle with electrodes, yeah.
Well.
And the researcher said in an interview with ABC News, in the future we imagine 100 or 1,000 insects swarming around a collapsed building, every one of them with a camera or sensor.
That's right, and that's how it would work. And then you could geolocate the people inside the trapped building.
Imagine if they were trapped inside though, and then all of a sudden a swarm of and you didn't know about this, and a swarm of beetles comes towards you.
I would
just think you were dreaming.
Like you swat one of those beetles, and that's like what, a couple hundred, maybe $1,000. What?
One of the people's like, gross.
But I think the thing is, in the context of emergency responses, the cost of a beetle like that all the tech on it is so minimal that it's worth it if it can work. But I find it. I think we're noticing a couple of these stories, Max, where people are sort of enhancing existing animals like that jellyfish.
We're making cyborgs.
Making little cyborg animals as a way of where robotics is failing in certain instances, like getting really deep in the ocean for not much energy. You can use a jellyfish and strap a cap to it, potentially. Using getting through really tricky rubble scenarios in emergency situation, you could potentially use a beetle with like that you can control.
Exactly.
And use the base robotics of a living organism, which is bizarre and very, a lot of people have weird ethical, well, not weird, but genuine ethical considerations about that. But I think it's fascinating to see this move into why try and recreate something that nature's already provided.
Because it provides rapid development. And so, might as well use the tools that are out there already. You tuned to 4ZZZ. The show is No Idea with me, Max, Issy, Peta, Gabrielle. No Idea, Space News.
Full legal name.
30 years ago, you may have heard this.
We got a couple of housekeeping procedures for you. We give your oxygen tanks a stir. Roger that. Hey, we've got a problem here. This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we have a problem.
That's right. It's Apollo 13, the movie. It's been 30 years since its release of Ron Howard's blockbuster movie, starring Tom Hanks, Bill Paxton, Kevin Bacon, amongst others. It depicts the aborted 1970 Apollo space mission. And spoiler alert, they did make it home, but they didn't make it to the moon. So they went around the moon, but they didn't actually land on the moon. So what actually happened? Well, the Apollo 13 oxygen tanks had originally been designed to run off 28-volt DC system of the command and service modules. However, the tanks were redesigned to also run off 65 volts DC ground power at Kennedy Space Center. All components were upgraded to accept 65 volts DC except for the heater thermostatic switches. 56 hours into the mission, the power fans were turned on within the tank for the third cryostir of the mission, a procedure to stir the liquid oxygen inside the tank, which would tend to stratify. The exposed fan wires shorted and the Teflon insulation caught fire in the pure oxygen environment. The resulted explosion and ruptured the oxygen tank number 2 in the service module. The explosion also ruptured a line and damaged a valve in the number 1 oxygen tank, causing it to lose oxygen rapidly. The service module bay number 4 cover was also blown off. All oxygen stores were lost within how many hours, do you reckon? So 56 hours.
4? Yeah, I think.
It's 3 hours. It was all lost within 3 hours, along with the loss of water, electrical power, and the use of the propulsion system.
Delightful.
The crew of the Apollo 13, consisting of Commander James Lovell, Lunar Module Pilot Fred Hayes, and Command Module Pilot Jack Swigert, famously called their mission a successful failure. And finally, for the movie buffs, Ron Howard's Apollo 13 was nominated for 9 Academy Awards. The 9 categories were Best Picture, Best Film Editing, Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress, Best Original Score, Best Sound Mixing, Best Production Design, Best Visual Effects, and Best Adapted Screenplay. So from those 9, What two do you think they got over the line with?
Effects.
Effects or picture?
No.
Ooh.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Not a clue. I would have thought effects
I have not
too,
seen
yeah.
this movie.
Yeah. They won the award for best film editing.
Yeah.
And the best soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What beat them out for effects?
Oh, not best original score, best sound mixing. Sorry, best sound mixing. Yeah.
Best, yeah.
I know.
Effects.
Anyway,
What is the independent variable that makes no idea tick? That's what I want to know.
we're just going through some of the facts. 1995, the Academy Awards.
What a year!
What
I know.
a year.
Wow.
Best,
Yeah, I wish I'd been alive.
Same.
best picture, it went to Braveheart. The best film editing, as we know, went to Apollo 13. Best supporting actor went to Kevin Spacey with the from the movie The Usual
Can we
Suspects.
change that one in post? Yeah, no idea is going to award that one to Apollo 13. 'cause
Yes,
it's not
Tom
made.
Hanks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Best supporting actress Susan Sarandon in Dead Man Walking. Best original score. There was two, wasn't there?
Yes.
So there's anime and normal. So normal movie, The Postman.
Anime.
Drama and
So drama
musicals, yeah.
was The Postman. In animated or musical, it was Pocahontas.
Right.
Woo.
Best sound mixing, again, Apollo 13. Best production design / restoration. We got
Was
anything there?
restoration,
Oh,
which was costume design.
Yeah.
This was the one that boggled us a little bit because we looked up, who would have the best visual effects
What
in a
possibly
space
could
movie?
have, right? Who could have beaten
Who could have
Apollo
beaten?
13?
And there were two
for visual effects.
If you listened earlier, there were two nominees, one of which was Apollo 13. The other one was the movie Babe.
And
You know the
Babe
pig?
won.
Yes.
That'll do,
Babe
pig.
won.
Was it
Babe
a realistic pig?
That'll do, pig.
Yes,
And
it
do,
was.
And do we know what the best adapted screenplay was?
It was Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen.
Oh,
okay.
wow.
So okay.
1995.
Do you guys want to
but
guess
hey.
which singular movie I've seen out of every single one of these movies?
But hey, don't worry because Babe
Pocahontas.
also got nominated for best writing, best screenplay as well. So
Oh, incredible! What are you? You could go to the
Bar around
cinemas and say, do you want to watch Babe, Apollo 13, Braveheart, or Pocahontas?
Or F1?
no.
Now,
Wrong.
and now the choice is, do you want to watch F1 or Fast and Furious 18? Like that's who cares? Do you know what hasn't gone to trash though since 1995, Max?
Yes.
4 Triple Z's quality broadcasting.
Correct.
50 years we've hit.
Yes.
And now
50
we've got
years.
mic stands.
They're now coming with mic stands. And if you want to keep 4 Triple Z on air, you can subscribe. It is pretty much the main thing that keeps us going is people subscribing to 4 Triple Z. Max, you have the options there for what you can subscribe
I do.
as.
If you're under 18 and you're on school holidays, please subscribe. It's $25. Pets, $25. Concession is $40. Full is $80. Passionate is $140. If you want to become a super sub and get your name written down on the walls downstairs, it's $500. Just go to our website at 4zzz.org.au/support. You can check it out, or you can ring Steve downstairs on 07 3252 1555. He'd be happy to walk you through it.
And as part of giving back to the community, we have our July prize as well, because new month, new prize.
I'm jealous of this one.
Yes, this one is super fun. It is courtesy of Non, which has released, these are non-alcoholic wines that are still high quality. You will get a mixed pack, including a non-stopper as well. So if you want to celebrate us hitting 50 and you're the Desi driver or it just doesn't suit you, Non has you covered. So that is your prize for July.
That is just about all we have time for this morning. Today's show was brought to you by the word Trichloroisocyanuric acid and the loving support of our 4ZZZ subscribers. We had some great texts come in about dreams. People were talking about fish oil, Genko supplements, antidepressants, wildly changing their dreams.
Antidepressants, definitely, yes.
Yeah, and then we'll be back in your ears at the same time next week. Between now and then, though, don't offend an orca if it offers you some food. Take care of your cyborg beetles and chuck on Apollo 13 when you're looking for something to watch one evening this week.
Speak to you next week.
See ya.
Bye.
See ya.
I'm a goddamn marvel of modern science.